Igathe City face-off. Before we even get into the nitty-gritties, Kasanga, what is your first reaction to how the entire debate happened? Who carried the day and why?
First, you remember the debate was in two parts. We had the first group that did the first session, and then we had Senator Sakaja and Honorable Igathe came in the second lot. And I think it was very well coordinated. It was good. Of course, there's the issue of timing. You could see the time was not adequate enough for each person, to elaborate what it is they needed to elaborate. But we understand, these debates, the idea, I think, is to show yourself, show up, show yourself, give us a snapshot of what you're about. And I love that. I think Kenyans really did enjoy seeing all these candidates bring themselves out. And the moderators, I think, also did a good job. There was fairness across board. They gave enough time to each of them, to sort of rebut where, something had been brought out against them. And I thought that was really nice. It was a healthy debate. I enjoyed it very, very much.
Okay. Did you hear anything outstanding?
Well, yes, I would say I would hear something outstanding. In the sense that it's nice to know what our leaders are thinking, our potential next leaders have in mind. It may not be earth-shattering, it may not be absolutely new, but it's good to see. It was clear, for instance, let's give it to Senator Sakaja. You could feel that he has the heartbeat of the city. He understands, he has interacted very intimately with the city. Of course, having been born, in certain parts of the city, having been a nominated member in the National Assembly and then serving as Senate. And you see, he's our colleague at Senate, and we know how well he interacted with the issues. So I think on that one, Igathe should have done a little bit more background check on Sakaja's performance in Senate, because he did a lot of work in Senate. We have to give it to him. I have to say, on Sakaja's part, what didn't come out, in as much as he showed his interaction with the city and understanding the problems of the city, the implementation of the solutions didn't come out quite as strongly as his passion for interaction, identifying the issues and the problems. But I'll attribute that maybe to the time. The time that was being given to them, such that it was not enough to elaborate. On Igathe's part, he has implementation ideas. It was clear he understands how to get certain things done, but does he really, really interact with the problems of the city to understand them very well? And another very important thing that both of them should have come out very strongly. And now that they are going to launch their manifestos, we shall be looking out for it. You cannot give us solutions for a city without interacting with some of the laws that are there. We have the Urban and Cities Act 2019. We have the Waste Management Act that was passed just the other day. They need to make reference to such things. Then we have the Physical and Land Use Planning Act, very critical acts of parliament that govern how cities are run. And we would want to see them interact with some of these things. But also, most importantly, is the cooperation between the Kenya government and the JICA when it came to Nairobi planning. And there is a plan that is somewhere gathering dust. And we want to hear how they're going to interact with this plan and give us solutions for this city. I was happy to hear Igathe came out very clearly at the beginning with the issues of how much money as a county should Nairobi be allocated. And let us not forget that the urban poor live in a much worse condition, say, than the rural poor. And therefore, the debate on how much money then that the county government needs to have should be important. But on-source revenue, not enough conversation about on-source revenue. Nairobi should be able to create a lot more on-source revenue. That didn't quite come out from both of the candidates. All in all, it was a good debate. A bit of unnecessary jabs here and there of the two candidates. You could see they came out ready for each other. That was unnecessary, in my opinion, waste of time. They are both, they both have earned their place. And by having reached that level of debate, there was no need to take those jabs at each other. They were really a time-wasting, just time-wasting engagement that was really not necessary. And let me just mention about time. I am, personally, I am a proponent of you must keep time. If you have accepted to come on time. If at all you didn't reach on time, you have to apologize for making people wait for you. I mean, the nation was waiting. Yeah. At one point, we thought Senator Sakaja will not come. I personally was panicking because you don't say you're going to show up, and then you don't show up. But then he shows up late, and then the reason he gives is not a reason. Actually, more like, I wanted to give them time so that, I don't know, they can do what and do what. That didn't come out very well on his part. But it was a strong debate, it was a good debate, and I'm looking forward to the next other debates that are coming.
All right, Senator Mwaura, what is your initial reaction to the debate?
I think Sakaja did very well.
Yeah.
And Igathe came out as somebody who was yet to really understand what's happening in Nairobi. And I personally don't think that debate, it was really good. I think it's important for people to interrogate these leaders. But the challenge is that it usually has very little bearing on how people vote. Generally, the debates, even in the presidential elections, do not necessarily influence outcomes. And well, I really hope that Nairobians will have the best person at the helm. Yeah, really.
You don't think it has a bearing in the outcome? You think people already made up their mind?
People have made up their mind. I don't think one will stand there and say that they will vote for somebody because they debated well. But there is no question who was a better debater.
Who was?
It was, of course, Sakaja.
Why?
Especially because, Igathe is shallow. He's more of a corporate guy. He doesn't really seem to have understood how to do politics. And also, Sakaja has been interacting with the issues more practically, both as a senator for Nairobi, I mean, even chairing committees. I mean, he's been our chairman in the Labour and Social Welfare Committee of the Senate and all of those kind of things. So I think for Igathe, those who primed him for the job would think that Nairobi can be managed the way you can manage a bank. It's not the same way. They are so different dynamics, and you need to be more at par with the people. You need to feel the tempo of the people. So I think that came out very clearly. Who has the head start in terms of engagement directly? Yeah. So I don't think. If you look at, for example, the solutions that they were giving, they needed to be more in depth in these solutions. Nairobi is a very dirty city, to be honest. It's very chaotic. I mean, it is important if, for example, they would have addressed how, for example, to have a light rail, in Nairobi to do away with all this traffic. And also how to ensure that, like how do you do urban renewal in terms of ensuring that, even our buildings, people do not renovate these buildings, and that would be a lot of jobs for these, young people, those kind of things. And as my colleague has said, the issue of urban poverty is serious. It's serious. How do you eliminate slums, for example? And you see places like Beijing, they do very huge skyscrapers that would wipe out a whole slum, just by 2 or 3 buildings. Yeah? Those kind of things. They need to be more practical. But I know eventually we will have a governor in Nairobi, and I hope that person will be, ready for the job. What they need also to tell us clearly, how do you generate about 200 million shillings a day and only collect 40 million? Where is the 160 million? Who is taking this money away? So that then being a governor of Nairobi does not become the jackpot to richness, you see? Yeah. Those kind of things. So that if you are to do 200 million every day, maybe excluding Sunday because it's a little bit less busy, you can see the kind of money you are making, in a month. And that alone can run Nairobi for the whole year. Because if you are able to get, so many billions in a year, in a month, for example, and of course cumulatively in a year, that would mean that you are able to, finance your budget. And you don't even need to depend on the equitable share, the money that is coming from the national government. But that's not the reality. The reality of the matter is that Nairobi is still dependent on the national government. And also, how then do you transition with the national, with the Nairobi Metropolitan Service? How do you make sure that you disengage, from 10th of August? All of the work that has been done, how do you continue with it, And Nairobi has had a very strong history of, city councils or county governments not function. I did not expect that to be the case under Sonko, by the way, honestly. Yeah. I thought that we are over that. Especially when you have an elected governor, in the city, not a mayor and councillors. But the challenges bedeviling in running such a big city remain. And I think, Trevor, this is something that we need to think about because, if you look at the combined population of Nairobi and Kiambu, is more than 10%. It's actually, according to the 2019 census, 6.8 million.
Yeah.
It's about 13% of the Kenyan population. If you add now to the whole of the metropolis touching Kajiado County, Machakos, and any other that I may not have mentioned, you then see more than 10 million people stay within the metropolis.
Okay.
And that's a country by itself.
Okay.
It's really, and there is now the emergence of mega cities across the world. London economy is better than the whole of the rest of England.
Okay.
So you want to ensure that whoever manages this, does it well. You remember even now the fallen Boris Johnson is a product of being a mayor of London. Okay. So you keep on increasingly saying that this is actually a springboard to national leadership. So it is a very important endeavor, and I hope that even if for nothing else, it eliminated the issues that need to be addressed in Nairobi. Okay.
Kasanga, there were 4 others in the race. Esther Waringa was there, an independent. Nancy Wambui was there. Usawa Party. Herman Grewal was there. Safina. Kenneth Nyamwam was also there. UPA. Are we seeing an alternative leadership, or are the two still just the front runners?
Oh, without a doubt, the two are front runners. I think it came out also very clearly at the debate yesterday. I did listen to some of the submissions that the other 4 did, and a lot of them were actually struggling with the reality of the issues that are bedeviling Nairobi, some of them with a bit of unrealistic solutions to how to deal with the issues. Without a doubt, we still have the 2 front runners, 2-horse race in Nairobi. And but it's good to see that people are coming out. I appreciate when I saw the 4, because at all times, it is good for people to bring themselves out. And then we know actually there's a lot more potential at this level of gubernatorial than just 2 people. In as much as these ones are obviously on the front, it is good to see these other faces that are there. Okay. I think one of the things that I miss out on, and I have said this, I've said this even to Senator Sakaja as a colleague, I said, why don't you have a female for a running mate? I did express that Nairobi would have done well with a deputy who's a female. So for me to see some female faces in the race is also, encouraging from a female point of view, from a woman point of view. And these 2 front runners have not given us a woman for a running mate. But anyway, it is politics largely, so we understand. But in future, Nairobi we need more women now to come out in leadership for Nairobi. Some of the things that Senator my good friend Mwaura here is talking about, when you look at the dirt that we live in Nairobi. And just the other day, I think it was on one of the media, on social media, and they took pictures of pipeline and the dirt in pipeline and how people live obliviously within that dirt. Then there's a conversation that is deeper than even whatever systems that we want to put into place. Whatever urban waste management system we shall put, we still have to have a very basic conversation with ourselves as a people and ask ourselves, why are we allowing ourselves to live in filth? Why should I walk past, that as I'm walking to work or as I walk out of my house? What happens to, certain community activities that can help us live in a more healthy environment, even with the limited resources, that we have? Some of these conversations, I believe, would come out very well if we had female leadership. There are some things that we women interact with, and with very little resources, and we get a lot of resolution of these problems. Okay. But I wish these 2 candidates well. I wish the other 4 also very well as they continue to sell their agenda. And we look forward to more conversations on leadership.
Yeah. Senator Mwaura, you're the one who brought up this issue of efficiency. The 2 are proposing 2 ideas. One, Sakaja is proposing having boroughs. He wants to divide Nairobi into 5, north, south, west, east, central. For that, according to him, that will enhance efficiency. According to Igade, performance contracting will help in terms of ensuring that people are held accountable to the roles they're supposed to do. Which one of them makes more sense?
I think both of them are not mutually exclusive. Yeah. Because performance contracting boils down to the individual and to the entity that is already put in place. Our County Government Act anticipates municipalities. So one would ask whether you want to use that to make the various brass around the country. It has been the city county. It has been something that has been practiced even in London and other places where you divide and you separate. And it works better, I think. It's a better way of managing so that you focus particularly. So I think that's a more superior idea. But then now you narrow down also to individual performance contracting where you have targets. You know, this weight, that weight. So both of them can be done concurrently, and it would help, because it's just dividing alone does not necessarily lead to performance. But also, Nairobi is too big to be managed centrally as well. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, Trevor, if I'm going to add on to that, that's why I said that we have to interact with the law. Because the law is clear on how urban and cities are to be managed. Even before certain, what do you call them, proposals are made on how you want to divide and rule the city, already the Act has envisioned methods of managing the city with municipalities and other groupings. And on the issue of performance contract, I agree. It is important that people are held accountable. And the issue of cartels came out in yesterday's debate.
We'll get into that in just a
you want to come to that? Yeah. But that performance contracting also helps with fighting of certain, corruption. Corruption where people just get contracts for the sake of getting contracts, but there's nobody holding you accountable. Yeah. Workers, ghost workers, all those issues that are bedeviling our city hall a lot of it would be resolved by a lot of that contracting. Performance contracting. All
right. You brought up the issue of cartels. Let's listen to what they had to say about how to deal with cartels in the city.
The biggest symptom of cartel behavior is in the situation with garbage collection in the city of Nairobi, the situation with pending bills, the situation with suppliers in the city of the county of Nairobi. We need to look at suppliers in the city of Nairobi and ask ourselves, who are they? Do they meet the threshold of our public procurement laws, procedures and regulation?
Ulikuwa naibu gavana katika kaunti ya Nairobi kwa takriban miezi 6. Katika muda huo ulijukumika vipi katika kuwakabili hawa cartels? Hawa walaghai, hawa watu ambao
walaghai tulionana nao kwa sababu for the time when I was a governor, Nairobi City County moved its revenues from the 18-12 million we used to find to 100 million levels, 120 million a day.
You're never a governor.
When I was deputy governor, I was in the governor's office. Thank you. For that period when I was a deputy governor, that is what was going on. And we started to pay salaries on the 25th of every month. There was also remission of all statutory deductions. When I was there, I started the titling program for Nairobi to give title deeds into Nairobi. That process has taken 5 years, is now being completed as we speak. When I was there, I formulated and changed the management of Nairobi City County Water, the Nairobi Water and Sewer System. The new existing chief executive and their team came in. So there are a couple of things that we did within those within those 6 months.
If you stayed true and didn't quit and run away when things got hot, maybe things would have been better for the people of Nairobi. We'd never know. And unfortunately, we'll never get to learn. Cartels are a lazy word. It's a word used by lazy leaders who fail to master the courage and the guts and the resilience to deal with corruption. That is what cartels are. Cartels are a weak excuse. Because all of these are human beings. If you say you know them, and even here, just at this debate, you're afraid to name them, yet you said you knew them, you'll not deal with them. If you know them, name them.
Kwa hivyo huamini kama seneta kwamba kuna cartels katika kaunti ya Nairobi?
Sio cartels. Ni wanabiashara ambao, the first way not to be, to have cartels in Nairobi is to refuse to be part of that system. Lakini kama unaogopa hata wezi wasema kesho wakikutisha utajiuzulu tena. We cannot have that in Nairobi. We just need to set systems that actually remove the place they are playing. Don't be afraid of cartels, Polycarp.
They want to put this up. And Mule Musa is now joining us, ELOG coordinator. Thank you for making time. But Kasanga, you're the one who talked about this earlier on, the issue of cartels. Yes. Are you satisfied with their response to that conversation?
No. Actually, no implementation solution was shared as to how they shall deal with cartels directly. That didn't come out. In fact, even from Senator Sakaja, it didn't come out. He says refuse to be part of the system. What system? He needed to come out a little bit more clearly. Or was he suggesting that already Igathe is in the system and therefore won't, fight the cartels? That didn't come out. All in all, it was not clear. on how they're going to deal directly with the cartels. There's no question about it that City Hall is under siege. Every other leader who has been in City Hall has talked about it.
Yeah.
Some of them have said it's even a matter of life and death, how you deal with cartels in Nairobi. So apparently the cartels are that bad. So is it to say that it is lazy leadership? That all the other previous leaders who've been to City Hall have been lazy leaders? Is that what Senator Sakaja is suggesting to us? Does it mean that he will come and absolutely take care of and, you know, break all the cartels immediately he steps into office? We wait to see that. But that did not come out clearly from both of them, exactly how they're going to deal with these cartels of Nairobi.
Senator Mwaura, are you happy with the response on how to deal with the cartels in the city?
You know, cartels basically are going to be everywhere. And nobody should just tell us, yeah, there will be no cartels even when they become governor. What's the truth? Because it's the iron law of oligarchy. No matter how democratic a system is, there are some people who tend to make decisions. And cartels are about what? Is he who gets what tender. You know, and people monopolize. They make networks that are beneficial to the kickbacks and things like those. So dismantling those cartels is the most Herculean task, because even now around NMS, there are those who are making the supplies. And they have interest, and they have influence, and they know how to beat the system. So some of them would even be the financiers of these people who are running for office. They expect that they will be given something upon assumption of office. And I think the question is, where do you put the line? How do you make a system that makes that Trevor can apply for something tomorrow and get it without knowing Mwaura, you know? So that is the whole issue. Yeah. Otherwise, where there are resources, people develop interest, and it will be very difficult. All of the billions of Nairobi County expect that there will be no small critical mass of people that you know, patronizes that kind of system. Yeah. So it is not true for any one of them to tell us that they will be able to dismantle cartels. In fact, what people do, they dismantle the ones that are there and create their own.
Yeah.
Mule, thank you for making time. Before you came in, we were talking about the debate yesterday. What is your first reaction generally for the entire gubernatorial debate? Who carried the day and why? Did you hear anything substantive?
Thank you, Trevor, for having me, and first apologies for coming late. You know, there's a tally which has been going on. If you watch the opinion polls, there's been, this is to this Murengo, then this is to the other Murengo. There's a certain number of undecideds, which has been very big. If you, from an election point of view, actually that's a very big number. Anything over 10% can determine an election. I am in that category.
You are still undecided?
Yes, because I'm still not very clear what they're telling me. Even from the debate that was yesterday, I just saw two protagonists, so a number of contestants who are, each of them trying to express to Nairobians how they're going to deal with this city. I did not hear very concrete plans, and I think I've just found, I like what, for instance, Mwaura was talking about in terms of, we have created a system in this country where there is oligarchy, not democracy, and therefore no systems. I would want to hear how then you want to dismantle that kind of a system, because that's what takes us forward. At the presidential level, at the gubernatorial level, devolution is the main special project in this country. We want to hear concrete plans about how you want to empower Nairobians, make Nairobians understand that they can be able to actually progress and prosper in this country, and in this county. And to address even issues like urban-rural migration. I never had any debate about that. People are migrating towards the cities. They're running away from the villages. What are you doing, dealing in that respect? So I don't think I have had enough to be able to convince me one way or the other. And I think that's a general problem with the kind of campaigns that we've been having across the country. Yeah,
so that debate doesn't influence anything, because Tilik Ndungu here agrees with Senator Mwaura. He says debates don't change anything. Kenyans will still vote on tribal lines and tribal affiliations.
People have set minds, and that's the other thing about creating a system which is not really democratic. Because in a democratic system, you would expect people to sit and listen. I listen to these esteemed, distinguished, honorable members. I listen to what they are going to do about my life, and they make a decision between them. But what we have now is, I have to sit here and ask myself, Kasanga comes from my community, perhaps. She can be able to do a better job for me just because of that affiliation, not because of what she can be able to deliver. So because we have a system that has created these interests, and the interests therefore are archived in these tribal arrangements, people are set in terms of who they want to vote for. So the debate, while welcome, and I like that a lot. Actually, I like the progress that we've made in terms of we can now have Mwaura and Kasanga come to us and debate what they want to do, even if they are not going to do it afterwards. But it's a step in the right direction. However, we are not yet so far as to be able to be convinced that out of those debates, we have very concrete.
Held accountable, because like you mentioned that they can come and say these things, but then when they get into office, nothing happens. Everybody had them saying them, including in their manifestos.
First, I think they're suffering from the status of the promises which have been made in the past. We have a history in this country. Yeah. If you look at the performance of the leadership, and which is one of the things which is making very many young people shy away from registering as voters or participating in voting, that already gives a kind of a blemish to anybody who is aspiring to be a leader. I've argued before, there's something that we were calling at some point Sonkocracy, and not about Sonko, but Sonkocracy in terms of the pursuit for money, the pursuit for quick wealth. Most people have identified politics as one of the conduits, the fastest conduit towards wealth creation. And therefore, everybody is, when I stand in my constituency to tell people I want to become a member of parliament, the first thing they're thinking is, so this guy wants to become rich. He's looking for money, he's looking for opportunities. It is not canvassed within in the village corridors that Mule will be seeking to get a position which empowers us, which provides for us. So a narrative has to change for us to start thinking or believing in some of the things which are coming from our leaders, even when it comes to campaigns. We want to see action. Granted, there are few people who have been able to change the landscape of their constituents, but that has not been enough. It's not been a critical number to be able to convince most voters that the leadership in this country is heading towards the right direction. And if you look at all the research, all the surveys which have been done in I think the last 6 months or so, when the question is asked, are we headed the right direction? Most people are saying no. We're not going in the right direction. And what is that a testament of leadership?
All right, I'll take a quick break. When we come back, we now talk about the opinion polls. And I see here Dikush saying for the city that envisions to become a metropolis, the borough system is limited. Nairobi should be a policy made up of different cities. An overall body like NMS can remain, learn from Metro Manila, with a 25 million population. And then Leonard here says, I agree with Sylvia Kasanga. I guess Polycarp Igathe should have been requested for a leakage of some of the questions so that he can respond to them. Several different views coming through there. We'll keep them coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Bobo Wino says Sakaja did very well than Polycarp Igathe. I think being a senator gave him an upper hand. And again, he stole the show by arriving a little bit late with his competitor. Even panelists thought he was going to lose it. Okay, some people are saying that was a strategy, him coming late. Let's take a quick break here on Daybreak. When you come back, keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Now when you come back, we talk about the neck-to-neck race opinion polls that is showing right now that Raila is at 42% and Deputy President William Ruto is at 39%. DP Ruto has rubbished those TIFA polls, but are they really true? We'll see in just a bit, all right?